morning, everyone. It's absolutely lovely to see all of you. Or good afternoon, of course. If you're watching this in the afternoon, it's also a delight to see all of you. So I've had a little wander around school this morning, and as ever, I am as proud, as pleased as punch to see your attitudes to learning, how focused you are. And I came across a little man this morning that many of you will be familiar with, our friend Oscar, who is in Mr. Lodge's class, Winston Churchill, and he said to me, "Can you do this?" And he did this thing with his fingers, and he went like that. Oops, I might be able to do it more easily like that. Can you do that? I've no idea what this means or what kind of a skill it is, but today I have discovered, thanks to Oscar Knowles, a new skill. I've discovered that I can separate my fingers like that and bring them back together, and not everyone can do that. Now that skill came easily to me. You have a go, see if you can do it. Ooh, it feels a bit unnatural to do that. When I turn my hand that way, it's even harder. That skill has absolutely no use or relevance whatsoever. But I can guarantee that when you were trying to do it, you will have felt maybe frustrated if you couldn't do it. You might have felt excited because it came to you easily. We fall into two groups when we're trying something new. Sometimes things can come to us easily. Sometimes things can come to us in a much more challenging and difficult way. I'm just going to show you some pictures that might help to remind you of that. Do you remember the first time that you ever ran into the sea? So if you've been to the seaside and you see the scope and the breadth of the ocean, can you remember the very first time that you ran into the water? Maybe it was more of a plodge. Maybe it was more of a dip your toe in first. Have a look at this picture. So these people have run into the water, and I would say that they are feeling confident, they know what to expect. Maybe this isn't their first time, because the first time you do something, we tend to think about dipping your toe in, having a little try first, because as human beings we don't want to be shocked, we don't want to be surprised by what happens. So the first time you try something, usually you might be a bit cautious. And in terms of the water, you might just dip your toe in first and then a little bit more. Do you remember, as a baby, the first time you tried some new food? Maybe what this little baby is trying for the very first time could be some mashed up broccoli, or mashed up carrot, or maybe a bit of cheese. And the first time that we try something, sometimes we can have this reaction in our brain and in our tummy and in our bodies that says, "Oh, I don't like that." But then, interestingly, we don't spend the rest of our lives thinking, "I don't fancy trying that again," because the more we try it, the more used to it we become, and the less scared of it we are. Another example. How about when you try a new skill in school? Maybe there's some new learning. Maybe you are doing subtraction and you're having to regroup for the very first time. Maybe you're doing fractions and you can see that there's a link between fractions and division, but you haven't quite got it yet. And then you have this feeling like this child does. Except we know in our school that practice makes progress, as you know. So the more we tackle that homework, the more we try that new food, the more we experience new things, the less scared we become of them. Do you remember the very first time that you rode a bike? Because I think that our learning in school is a little bit like this too. Do you remember the first time you rode a bike? Maybe it had 3 wheels, like the ones that we have in our nursery. Maybe it had 4 wheels. Maybe it had its 2 wheels here, and then it had those extra bits that we call stabilisers. Did any of you ride a bike first of all with stabilisers? Can you think for a second about why we put stabilisers on a bike? Just think for a second. I think you're right. I think what happens when we wear stabilisers, not wear stabilisers, we don't wear stabilisers. When we put stabilisers on a bike, it gives us that little bit of added security, because one of the skills that you have to learn when you're riding a bike is to balance. And our brains are saying to us all the time that we're trying to balance. What if I fall over? What if I hurt myself? What if I crack my elbow on the floor? What if I bang my head? So all the time we're thinking about the dangers that might be involved in developing a new skill. And that's a good thing. We want our brain to warn us of the dangers of things. What we don't want it to do is to stop us from trying new things. So you can see in this picture that this little young man, a bit like you and like me, when he's been practicing, he's at the stage now where those stabilisers have come off. But when you take the stabilisers off, maybe what you still need is a grown-up just reassuring you, being there to catch you, being there in case something goes wrong, and also having these other safety measures in place that just give us confidence and security. So I wonder if you can see a link between all of these things that might help us when we're thinking about our learning. I think there's something about when we're doing something for the first time, maybe we need to have some extra safety measures put in place, and that can apply to our learning as well. So our safety measures are our teachers and the teaching assistants and our friends. So if we don't understand something, or we feel that we might get a bit off balance with our learning, our stabilisers really that keep us stable, keep us on the right path, are our teachers. They're the teaching assistants, and they are our friends. If we're trying something for the very first time, whether it's a new learning concept, whether it's mastering a new emotion that we haven't felt before, it's important to remember that the more we do something, the less scared we will become, the less odd it will taste, it will seem, it will feel. And then lastly, when it comes to our work, we might start with this kind of feeling, but with the help of our teachers, our teaching assistants and our friends, and by breaking it down into smaller pieces, taking away all of the difficult bits, then we know that practice makes progress. So you might not be able to do this with your fingers yet, and if I was you, I wouldn't spend a lot of time thinking about it, because I'm not sure what I'm going to be able to do with that. I just know it's quite good fun practicing. Focus on learning, focus on how you can use those stabilising people around you, and continue to work hard in the Hollingwood way. Have a lovely day, everyone.